Welcome to the 162nd episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Welcome. I have another interview tonight. I know it's usually me talking to the dogs and the cats in the thin air, but I do have an interview. It's with Jeff Koettel. Jeffrey sent me an email and wanted to share his story. He has a Facebook page called The Incredible Shrinking Bearded Man. He has literally lost half himself, starting with a weight about 500 pounds and now down into the below 250, in the 220 range most of the time. And he wants to tell his story about, how he got to where he is now, and he's whole food plant-based. And I'd like to congratulate him. He's done all of this on his own. No boot camps, no powders, no injections. He's worked his way down the hard way, and he's working a full-time job now, and that's very physical, and is doing very, very well plant-based. And it's a great inspirational story to hear. It's not much different from a lot of stories that we hear. There's so many families that food is the center of all happiness, and that wasn't much different from his family. Most of the people in his family were overweight. Food was a sense of joy, and food was what you went to if you were sad, and the depression led him to eat more and to ultimately get to his biggest weight. But then he dug himself out of that, and again was able to lose weight on his own. And luckily, he's young enough that he didn't suffer any of the long-lasting lifestyle diseases that many people get that are severely overweight. He's not taking any medications, nor has he ever. Certainly had terrible joint problems when he was carrying all that weight, but now is actually doing very well. So I think you'll enjoy that interview. Before we get started, I wanted to just briefly touch on, he has taken this to a whole foods approach, whole plant foods now approach to losing weight. And it's so confusing out there, not only with the different kinds of fad diets, but the different powders and things and shots and different promises that people make to help people lose weight. And I never have had a person that was severely overweight come to my office that hadn't tried a multitude of different ways of losing weight. They're all really, really trying. They've tried everything on the internet. And, I often see on Facebook, there are groups that interpret various plant-based lifestyles or different dieting strategies to really try and lose weight. And I'm glad that he, came around to realizing that just keeping it simple, whole foods, plant foods, whole grains, potatoes, vegetables, it's really simple. We don't have to complicate it. It doesn't have to be amazing looking creations. It doesn't have to be powdered drinks, vitamin supplements. You get everything you need by eating just the colors of the rainbow. And it doesn't have to be fancy vegetables. It can be simple vegetables. I reminded somebody today that, Okinawans live, they're one of the blue zone peoples, and they live predominantly on sweet potatoes as their main staple. It's the main calorie source of their intake. Same way with Kenyans, ugali, corn, cornmeal, vegetables, and sweet potatoes. The Taro Mara Mexicans, corn, bean, rice. It doesn't have to be very, very complicated, and it doesn't have to be, a different vegetable every night. Some people like to eat very simply and have the same thing. We all tend to repeat the same breakfasts, maybe 1-2 breakfasts that we rotate, but it doesn't have to be difficult. I also had a comment from somebody today that, after we really have been struggling, she came to me, a very brittle type 1 diabetic who was on a ketogenic diet, and we really had trouble getting her from ketogenic to plant-based and getting her sugars under control. And it took 5-6 days to actually get sugars down into the 150, 200 range. because she had, done this ketogenic diet with so much fat blocking the uptake of glucose in her muscle cells that glucose would, go way up into the 300-400s after she would eat, and then gradually come down and then crash because of the insulin that she had on board. And 1 or 2 days, of having sugars that are getting down into the reasonable level, she's like, I think I'm bored with the food. Yet before, she was eating eggs and bacon and the same thing over and over, and butter. I mean, how boring is that? No fiber, constipated, feeling bad. And yet a few days of rice and beans and tomatoes and fresh fruit, and she's kind of wanting to move on a little bit. She's trying to stick to the plant-based, and we're kind of at a crossroads. And she's going to start nutrition class, and I have faith that once she starts to see how we can make different vegetables and different spices, she'll be okay. But it is. I don't think it's because of being bored. I think that there's this terrible craving for sugar, oil, and fat that we really have to get away from, and it is very difficult. And I really do think that that's what she's experiencing. So if you're struggling, I hope you glean some insight to Jeffrey's struggles. I don't think he's quite there yet. He's managing the best he can for what works with him. He's essentially eating 1 meal a day now, and mainly because of the way he works, shift work at a window factory. But, I think, again, try not to make things too awful complicated. And don't worry about making these crazy creations that we all share on Pinterest or Instagram for fun or as a hobby. Just eat real food and give your body a break. I do think that we need 4 or 5 hours between meals to let our body time to relax, digest, and heal. That's kind of the way we're supposed to be, not continuous eating machines. And if people are struggling, having to eat every couple of hours and focus that much on their food, then we need to find ways to distract that. So I hope you enjoy the interview with Jeffrey, and look forward to. I'll come back after the interview, and we'll kind of wrap it up. Well, I'm pleased to have Jeff Koettel on the show today. Jeff actually reached out to me to share his story, and it's quite an inspiring story. He, at one point, hit a weight of about 500 pounds, and we're going to talk about it more, but he's tried every diet under the sun, and eventually came across forks over knives, like a lot of us have, and went plant-based, and he's had some miraculous success. So, welcome, Jeff.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so, you reached out, and I'm going to say, before we forget, happy birthday in a month. You're going to be the big 40, so, that's great. And you told me in your email that, you are more healthy now than you ever have been in your life. So, when you were a child, were you overweight?
Yes, the obesity started probably when I was about 7 years old, I believe. And I just remember being the heavier kids in the class. I was always the heaviest in like whatever grade or whatever,
How tall are you? Are you?
Well, I think I've shrunk a little bit in my older age of 40, but I'm about 5'11" right now.
Okay, so you're never the tallest kid in the class.
No.
And how about any brothers and sisters?
I have 3 older brothers, actually. I'm the baby of 4, actually.
And were they overweight at all?
Speaking of nice, all but one of us has had weight issues in the past or currently or anything like that,
And what state did you grow up in?
Iowa, born and raised. Ottumwa, Iowa, home of Radar O'Reilly from MASH, actually.
All right. We all know Radar. Yeah. What about and mom and dad? Did they have weight issues? And
yeah, my dad actually had a double bypass by age 53 back in, I believe it was like 2001 or 2002, and that's actually one of the biggest reasons I decided to try to do something, was because I was creeping up on that age that he had his surgery. So, and I actually had a daughter that was born in 2008, and she's been the main focus of all my, my goals as well.
Nothing like a little girl to change a dad's mind, right?
Yeah, she's almost 10. She'll be 10 in November right now, and we actually have so many. When she was 3 years old, I was about 400 pounds at that time, and we were running around the park one day, and I just couldn't keep up, short of breath, completely just poor health. I was like a carton a week smoker as well,
Wow. So what do you, help me out here a little bit. So you smoked a pack of cigarettes a week. So,
no, a carton a week.
I'm sorry, carton. So there's 20 packs in a carton or something like that? 19 packs or something? I don't know. I've never been a smoker, but,
there's 10 packs per carton, and there's 20 cigarettes per pack. So you're talking 200 cigarettes.
So you're smoking, and give me, sometimes, people say, well, I don't eat that much. I have a poor metabolism. And so give me a life in the day of the 500, the 400, 500 pound you.
Oh, there's a lot of eating. I can guarantee that much. There's not very much activity going on. I reflect on it sometimes now. I'm currently I fluctuate between about 224 and like 228 usually right now. And, I have severe extra skin from, being so heavy at one time. But I mean, just things like bending over to pick up like a pen you dropped on the floor or something like that. Just simple tasks like, even something like, wiping your butt for, anything that you can think of. It just was so difficult back then.
Well, what would you start out with? I mean, as far as, so you were married at one point, you were pretty heavy, correct?
Actually, I had gotten down to about 300 pounds before I met my ex-wife, actually.
And so who did the cooking?
But then after she did most of the cooking then. And there was a lot of soups and stews. There was a lot of meat involved with that stuff. I mean, it's actually funny because I had just gotten down. I was probably 500 pounds by the time I was 20 years old, and I had just decided it was when I was about 22 that I was going to actually finally just cut back on portions. I didn't alter my diet at all, besides just cutting down portions, and that got me down to about 400 pounds. And then there was one day, I remember it specifically, I was probably, I can't remember the actual year it probably had to be about 2004. I actually was boiling chicken one day, and I saw this big, like, coagulated blood vein in the middle of the breast or something like that, and it just actually absolutely disgusted me seeing that, like knowing that was going to go in my belly. And I actually kind of had like this, like, there's dead flesh in my stomach. Like, that's really disgusting when you think about it. And I actually became vegetarian for 3 years before I got married. And I actually got down to probably about 290 pounds doing that. But I was still doing eggs and dairy at the time. But I was doing a lot of like like the Boca burgers. It was all those really bad for you, meat substitutes. But I mean, I got down to a pretty decent weight just cutting out that. And along that time, I picked up a copy of the Sugar Busters book, which I don't know if you're familiar with that one. Right.
One of the original low carb diets.
Yeah. But what I did though was I just paid attention more to like doing the whole grain. I didn't really care about carbs as much as just the quality of carbs from that. So that on top of the actual, I was kind of doing a plant-based diet almost then, but I was adding oils to it, which wasn't good, of course. And, like the meat and the fake meats, which I'm kind of really against that now. Like I've been actually doing like really good the last like 2 months almost, where like I'm doing nothing unprocessed, no oils, no added salt, no added sugar. And just in the last 2 months of actually just no cheating whatsoever. Because, I mean, like I went plant-based supposedly back in December of 2016. And I was kind of just like a little like 1 day a week cheater doing that for like about a year. And then it got to the point where like my whole weekends were cheating. And I was kind of just, totally canceling out what I did through the week, And,
Did your weight loss stall when you were doing the 1 day a week cheat?
Oh, it wasn't too bad, but see, I was probably about 290 pounds when I started the plant-based thing, after watching the Forks Over Knives movie. And but like I said, like every single night when I go to bed, like I'm putting on a YouTube webinar of what like McDougall or Gregor or I don't know if you know Rich Roll.
Right,
I've been paying attention to him lately, and there's just a whole. And it was actually funny because I work 45 minutes away from my job or from my home, and I got tired of listening to the classic rock station back and forth to work every day. So my buddy at work said I should do a podcast app on my phone, and I actually searched plant-based and came up on yours, and I'm going from current to backwards. I think I'm into like July of last year now.
Oh, cool.
I've been kind of binge listening to it for the last month, and that's what actually, really inspired me to email you. And but it's been a heck of a journey. I can't even tell you how awesome, which I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, like the inflammation levels that are down now. Like I can actually move around and bend and, just doing anything, even tying shoes or, I actually work at a door factory for Pella windows and doors. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yes.
I actually work at the factory, the hometown factory there, and it's 10-hour days, very physical. Lugging around 8-foot tall, 300-pound doors some days. Like I don't go to the gym. My job is my workout.
Yeah. Well, what did you do when you weighed, you were in the 400s, 500 pounds? Did you work in the same job?
I did like mostly cashier work at that time, just kind of just working at gas stations and everything. And just, it was definitely 8 hours of on my feet. And by the time I sat down for a little bit and got up, I was basically hobbling around because my ankles were shot. And knock on wood though, I feel very fortunate. Like the only side effect I've had from 280 pounds of weight loss and being that much heavier was that as I got the extra skin. Is like pretty much the only thing that I really came across that was like any kind of health effect from it. Which I actually just got my cholesterol checked not too long ago. At work, they had a health fair there, and I'm pretty sure that your patients would probably be amazed with these numbers. Actually, I don't know if you want me to share that with you.
Will you share? Yeah.
My cholesterol level was 136.
Wow.
LDL was 53. HDL was 66, and my triglycerides were 84.
Wow. That's amazing.
And
yeah.
That's absolute craziness. If I can find it here too, my fasting glucose was 86 as well.
Were you a diabetic when you were at your bigger weights?
No, and it's like I said, like I had a lot of acid reflux and sleep problems back then. I had sleep apnea like crazy, which I still do if I like fall asleep sitting up on my couch or something like that. But not like I actually, knock on wood, never had any major medical issues as far as like I was never on any medicine besides almost, I guess I did kick like a 15-year meloxicam habit, I guess you could say, because I needed some kind of anti-inflammatory just to get me through the day. I haven't even taken any ibuprofen for probably like 6 to 8 months. And that's with working 40, 50-hour weeks at a factory at almost 40, you know.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said in that, you know. I mean, I'd like just the need for, like, no need for any kind of over-the-counter or prescription medicine. I haven't had to go to the doctor in probably like 2-3 years now.
When you were growing up, did you eat at home or did you eat out?
We ate at home a lot because my mom, of course, had 4 growing boys. I remember us going through about 1.5 gallons of milk a day, you know, between all 4 of us. I mean, it was, the food at home was pretty much some kind of meat, battered and fried, and some kind of potato or stuffing that had tons of butter or oil in it. And the meat that was cooked with like huge spoonfuls of Crisco in the pan, you know, like no fruit besides maybe a bag of apples a week, you know, just, you know, they might have thrown like a can of vegetables or 2 and warmed them up on the stove. That was pretty much it, you know.
And as you got out on your own, did you cook for yourself or did you go the fast food route?
Oh, it was definitely the fast food came into effect when I got out of the house, for sure. I recall when I was pretty much close to my heaviness or my heaviest that there was times where I'd go to McDonald's and get like a double quarter pounder meal and sit in the parking lot and eat it, and then go to like Burger King afterwards and do the same thing with like a double Whopper, and then like go home and still eat food after that. You know, there was several times where I ate so much to the point where I actually made myself vomit because I just gorged myself so much, you know. And it's kind of scary thinking about how like most of my 20s, I was pretty much like a walking heart attack, you know. I'd get these palpitations sometimes where, you know, they were pretty scary.
So you lost the weight, you know, you got down to the 290, 300 pound by, and that was mainly you went vegetarian. That kind of stuff. And then you know, so did things stagnate for a while until you?
It stagnated after I actually started eating meat again. Like I said, when I got married, I was in the 300 realm. And then when we got divorced, the whole not seeing my kid every day kind of really put me into a big depression, which I came to, you know, this has been 8 years ago that we got divorced. But but like I said, by 2011, I got back up to 400 pounds. It was like about a 100-pound gain in like a year almost. I was literally eating myself, you know, to the grave almost to gain 100 pounds in a year. And I just had enough after that one day out at the park with her, and I pretty much went to doing paleo first, which was a more unprocessed approach with meat, of course, and then, you know, I did keto for a while, and that was awful. You know, I never felt any worse, you know, doing, you know, the weight loss was great on keto, but I felt like crap every day. You know?
When you did keto, what things did you eat?
It was a lot of like canned tuna, which is super bad still, and a lot of chicken breast, and there was a lot of you know, just like veggies and stuff like that. I kind of, you know, stayed away from it, like, you know, a lot of the starches and carbs and everything like that. It was more just meat and vegetables at that time. And
when you say you felt bad, what kind of symptoms did you have?
Just sluggish and lethargic and just no energy whatsoever. And it like even felt like my mental health was like suffering from doing it, you know, because I only probably did it for 4 months or so, but that was enough for me. It's just like, you know.
Did you ever test? Did you ever test to make sure that you were ketotic or?
Yeah, actually, I was in the pretty much the very dark purple at most of the time. I mean, it's so stressful to do that diet, anyways. That's what I love about this like whole food plant-based diet, because I literally don't track anything at all, you know. Mine's more the McDougal approach, where it's just a lot of beans and rice and potatoes and oatmeal, and then I do a lot of like leafy greens and some prunes and pistachios and apples and bananas. Just I keep it very simple, you know. And I love looking at these recipes, but it's just the amount of work that it takes to do them. I'm a single guy. I work, you know, by the time I drive to work and come home, it's been like 12 and a half hours. I just got one of those potato express bags. You know what I'm talking about? They're like a cloth bag. Like a cloth bag that you put in the microwave. I put like 6 little medium potatoes in there. I put like a can of like black beans, a no salt added. And then I put all my spices in there, and then I put like a freezer bag of like either chopped spinach or chopped kale or something like that. And then I'll actually add some raw leafy greens into the potato bowl that I got. And it's just like, it's probably like 900 calories and probably like 3 pounds of food, you know? And I think, I mean, I'm sure you could probably tell me that that's pretty nutritious, is it not? I mean,
well, yeah,
you know, as far as getting your all your goodies in there anyways. And then I do this like mega oatmeal afterwards for like a dessert where, you know, I put in like peanut butter powder and some ground flaxseed and some chia seeds and some cacao powder, and stir it all up with a little almond milk in there. And it's like, it's delicious, you know?
What do you do for lunch?
I actually do intermittent fasting through my work days. Okay. I do like a 21-3, I think it is, and it's all just strictly water fast. I've heard in some of your previous podcasts where you're kind of iffy about the intermittent fasting, or like, what's your feelings on that? If I may ask.
Well, I mean, I think that it depends on, you know, I mean, I worry when people fast all day and then they have this giant meal, because you know, I mean,
which is kind of like what I described.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if it's working for you, obviously, you know, you work a very physical job, and so you're not working all day, and then then you're kind of eating all your calories at one point. And I mean, I do think it's really important to have gut rest. You know, I think that grazing all day long, you know, is not good, because your gut doesn't, you know, get any time to rest. And when you're, you know, when you're coming in and you're eating a really big meal here, but you know, it's all pretty much healthy things. So I don't have near the problem with it. And then once you stop. You know, so you kind of you're kind of getting all your calories at one meal.
And that's what I kind of like about it, because like on the weekends I don't really do the fasting, and I find myself just mindlessly grazing all day long. Like it's like work keeps me busy, and so it's easy to do the fasting. And I actually, from what I've read, you know, of course I don't have any degrees or anything like that, but I mean, like from what I've done, my research is like you said, giving your organs a chance to heal and rest. I actually feel more energetic, and I feel like my performance is better when I do my fasting while I'm working, because I'll get home from work at like 3 a.m, and I'll eat until about 6. But I don't just slam it all down at once. You know, I kind of take it easy. Then I go to bed about 6 o'clock, and I won't eat until 3 o'clock that next morning again. And when I wake up, my belly's already empty. Like the bloat's gone. I go to work. I'm chugging water. It's a constant 80 degrees in there. Sometimes like 105 in the summer, you know, from like July and August, which is actually kind of funny. I should mention is I actually worked at one of the local pork processing plants here in Iowa for 11 years before I went to my door plant job last year. And the horrors I could tell you about working in a slaughterhouse for 11 years, it definitely makes this whole plant-based journey a lot more focused for me to be able to see, because we processed like 1,100 hogs an hour in my department. And if you can imagine.
Wait a minute. Wait, I gotta slow down here. So, so wait, I went back a few minutes ago. We were talking about how you were boiling chicken and you saw a vein in the pot and you got grossed out by it.
Yeah.
And then now, so where was the chicken in the pot that grossed you out, but the pigs didn't? Tell me that story.
Well, it's the American way that happens though. You get so brainwashed thinking that, you know, you're gonna like not have all your nutrients if you're eating, because the plant-based movement back in, I think this was like 2005 when I was doing the vegetarian thing. You know, the information just wasn't really mainstream then, you know what I mean? And it just, I don't know, it just something, I got married and a lot of that had to do with like, she was doing the cooking and I was getting kind of tired of being the butt of all the jokes, you know, so to speak then. So I'm sure there's a lot of, like, I get them all the time. I always hear you about, you talking about your coworkers where they're always, you know, making fun of your kale or whatever, you know.
Right.
And, you know, like just even today's world, like even being vegan or plant-based is like, there's so much stigma to it still. I mean, I was just at a buddy's house earlier and he had a big old brat barbecue and you know, they fried the morel mushrooms. And I just sat there and just watched the meat. I didn't, you know, partake in any of it. And, you know, and they give me crap all the time, just like anybody else would, you know, they're, you know, oh, you
even,
know, you mean,
even knowing what you've been through, people still give you a hard time.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah. It's crazy, you know? And I mean, I can't really say much about the packing house that I worked in was more of like I did what I had to do to help my new family out. You know what I mean?
Right. You had to make a living.
And this small town Iowa here, there's like only like a John Deere plant here, and then this packing house to make any kind of decent money without a, you know, huge college degree or anything like that. I mean, they offer decent wages and health insurance, and you know, you kind of get stuck in the, you know, the small town, you know, mentality here a little bit, you know. But I'm sure small town Iowa here is a lot different from where you live. It's probably, you know, a culture clash every time you probably come up to the Midwest, isn't it?
Well, I grew up in West Virginia, so I mean, it wasn't that much different, you know. I mean, you know, as small towns and people tend to, you know, eat the same way, and you know, part of my growing up. Thanksgiving was was a butcher holiday, you know. So my grandparents had hogs, and they butchered hogs, you know, and relatives, they butchered hogs on Thanksgiving, and even the children participated in the rendering process and making lard and all that other kind of stuff. So I mean, that's kind of what I grew up around. I never thought anything about, you know, my grandmother had a crock of lard on top of the stove that she would always grab, you know, and that went into everything, of course, pie crust and all that kind of stuff, you know. So yeah, I grew up around that. I mean, you know, we were laughing last night at the dinner table, and I say it all the time, and I still am amazed by myself. You know, we were sitting around eating some fruit, and I was like, you know, I really, truly never ate a piece of fruit that was not in a pie or a cake. Growing up, it was, you know, you just never would think about it, and it's just something that, why would you? And it couldn't be the furthest from my mind. Now it's like, why ruin the fruit by putting all that grease around it? But it's a total different mentality, and I guess mortality is what I was starting to say, but that's true. You know, I mean, everybody died of heart disease and had diabetes doing that. It's so you're in this small town, and how did you come to Forks Over Knives? You know, what made you actually, you know, how'd you stumble upon that?
Oh, I think it came across on one of the YouTube channels or YouTube videos that I stumbled across. Like I said, I watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of the plant-based guys now, but I think it was like a top 10 Netflix health documentaries or something like that, and that was like the first one that popped up. Which, it's like I said, by far, like if anybody asks me, like if they haven't seen me in a while, like, man, you lost so much weight, what are you doing? I'm like, I tell them a little bit about it without, with like awaiting the vegan bashing, that instantly, oh, I couldn't give up my meat, I couldn't give up my dairy. And there's so many people out there that's, so addicted to dairy. It's nuts. Like,
so
people,
you would watch, you were desperately trying to look for help for some sort of way of losing weight, and when you're watching these health videos, correct? You tried them all.
Yeah, well, see, my problem is like I would always get down to like 250, 260 in the summer for like the last like 4 years. And then I would get back up to like 300 by winter. And then it was just like, I literally had to starve myself and be super active to, like, I was going out disc golfing. I don't know if you know about the Frisbee golfing or whatever.
Yes,
I do that quite a bit. It's like the only thing to do here in town that's active and fun. But yeah, like I was out, doing 4 miles of disc golfing a day after a 10-hour shift at the pig plant down there. And, and I kept on having to just go up and down all the time, and I just got tired of it. And I stumbled on Forks Over Knives and watched it, and then just like everything clicked when I watched it. I'm like, I think it was in November of 2016 when I watched it, and I told myself, like, I'm gonna, like, December 1st, I'm gonna do it, and I was really good my first 3-4 months where I had like no cheats whatsoever. I swear I probably dropped like 40 pounds in that first 3-4 months. Like those 40 really hard pounds that I got to bust my butt for in the summer,
Mm-hmm.
And this was in the winter, and it kept going down. And I, once I got down to about 230, like I was pretty strict with myself for the most part. I had my moments where I had my cheats and everything, But like I said, it's only been like, I think the last 2 months that I've actually been like 100% no cheating whatsoever. And my weight hasn't really been changing all that much. I'm still consistently, like I said, about 224 to 228, which I think I got at least a good 10 to 20 pounds of extra skin to get taken off. I don't know if I did send you a photo of that in the email. My body is a complete mess as far as that goes, but I kind of just try to, I don't know, make the best of it. And there's a lot of, I don't know, shame involved to it to a point. It kind of gives me a complex a little bit, but it's nowhere near as bad as when I was carrying 500 pounds, And, I'm
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you still have, things can still tighten up a little bit, and I mean, we all, it's kind of one of your, we all have our scars, so to speak, and
almost. I would really like to get the removal surgery, but my finances will not allow that at all. So it's one of those things where I've actually wrote into a few other, TV shows like The Doctors or something like that to kind of, do the same thing as share my story and everything. And like I said, on my Facebook page that I have, I get messages from people all the time just asking me questions and, telling me how much I've inspired them. And it feels really good. Like they actually kind of like pay it forward and, try to help spread the word. Because I wish, 20 years ago, I would have heard about this plant-based stuff, then. I mean, just to imagine, my last 20 years being impacted as much as my last year and a half, you know what I mean?
What made you go to get rid of the cheat days?
Because I got, actually, it's funny because like the longer I went like 100% plant-based, the worse I felt after eating the cheats on the weekdays. I mean, like on the weekend. And it was getting to the point where I was actually getting massive food hangovers for like a 2 or 3 day food hangover afterwards, where like I would literally gain like 10 pounds of bloat with like over a weekend. And it would take me until Thursday to get it back down to where, I kind of was beforehand. And I would feel miserable at work the whole time because I get the detox headaches and the the gut microbiome was probably all thrown off, like it gets fed all this healthy stuff, and now it's, which I'm actually doing resistant starches now. I'm doing potato starch a little bit every day to try to get that going. I don't know if you're familiar with that too. I've just been reading about the resistant starches lately.
Mm-hmm.
I just got off a round of it was like 15 billion culture probiotic too, which I don't know if those help out a whole lot, but I mean I know you've been talking about the fermented foods on one episode, which I really enjoyed that one actually.
Yeah, I think it takes a while. You had a lot of years growing a bad garden, and now you're switching things around. And I agree with you. When every time you had the cheat day, you sort of put Clorox on your garden, so to speak, and so you never really got it completely turned around, and until now. So yeah, I think the more you can do with the fermented foods and and I do think there's something to be said for the. I don't know the probiotics that you buy on the grocery anywhere. They're not really what grows in your gut, but there's some there may be some evidence that the enzymes that are broken down from them when they get destroyed in your by your gastric juices, they also may help in a feedback loop to kind of help what you got going grow. So they're almost like a fertilizer, so to speak.
Yeah, and I actually do about every 3 months. I actually do a 3-day water fast every once in a while. Like I'll occasionally do like a day and a half water fast for just like maintenance. I actually really like how much better I feel after doing that for just a little over 24 hours. I've done 2-day ones a few times, but the 3-day ones I actually feel like there's actually a really big like beneficial reset, which I know. They were talking about the Walter Kempner rice fasting or whatever. The water fasting with that too. And I listened to stuff. Goldhammer, is that
right?
his name?
Dr. Goldhammer.
Yeah, from the True North. Yeah, I've watched a lot of his videos about the fasting too, and I think there is something to that a little bit about just like healing and repairing. Just giving your body like a break. I think that's been actually like a good secret weapon for me.
How do you when you break your fast? How do you break your fast?
I don't really ease into it too much. Like I'll just have like some potatoes or some kind of starch with some veggie and stuff like that. Which my potato and bean bowls I make like I said, like I put so much, like nutritional yeast and stuff in there too, and garlic powder and minced onion, and it's just I feel like it's it's kind of like more like a mono thing. Like I actually eat like the same exact thing through the week, and then I kind of change it up a little bit. The simpler I keep it, the better. If it doesn't take me long to cook, and I know it's nutritious, I just kind of stick with that. And then I'll switch it up every once. Like the potato and bean bowl, you can do all sorts of different spices and variations of them too. Add mushrooms or put them on a whole grain tortilla. There's just all sorts of different combinations you can do just with like rice and beans and potatoes. I mean, but the more I overcomplicate it, the less interested I am in it. If you know what I mean. And then after you've been fasting for 20 hours, you're pretty darn hungry. Anything's going to taste really good when you're.
That's why I was curious. If you broke it easy, with very low calorie dense foods, or you went kind of back to what you had been eating.
Typically, like I'll break it with whole foods. It's just like I won't eat like I'll usually do like a banana. And then like kind of just let it sit there for an hour or two, and then I'll kind of ease into it just a little bit. But then by the end of the night, then I'll have my big old belly feast, which that's another reason I was mentioning the fasting is because like I don't know if you believe in the whole food addiction aspect of things. But like I believe that I'm a food addict. Never been diagnosed with that. But and the fasting, if I tell myself, okay, I can't eat in a certain time frame, for me it just keeps me out of trouble. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
it's like an alcoholic staying out of the bar, you know, and if that, I feel like if that's what I got to do to get those kind of results, then that's what I need to do. I mean, it's worked. Why break, you know, why fix it if it's not broken?
Have you ever,
I mean,
you talked about exercise in Iowa, but have you ever heard about the bike ride across Iowa?
No.
So
No, I've been actually meaning, I really want to get back into biking after listening about your Ironmans and stuff like that.
So you have to check this out. So there's a ride across Iowa every year, and
You're talking about Ragbri?
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with Ragbri. Yeah.
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 Yes.
They go crazy in our area. They're all. Some of them are kind of odd.
Yeah, Lance Armstrong does it every year, but that's something to train for, perhaps.
Yeah. It's just the problem with me, and I know this is kind of like one of those excusitarian things I've been listening to about. But like after a 10-hour shift at a door plant, I'm just tired. It's like 3 a.m. I'm ready to go home, sit on my couch. I sleep into like 1:30. But I do. I've actually. It's like I said earlier too. Is I've been actually getting my daughter involved, and I mean she knows my story. I've shown her. I'm very candid with her about. I think it helps me to tell her my story and reflect on it often in order for her, because my biggest fear when she was born was, I mean, she was 9 pounds 10 ounces when she was born, and I instantly thought, oh man, she's got the big gene, like she's gonna grow up to be an overweight kid. She was in 9 dance classes last year. She's on the dance competition team this year. The last 2 years, she stayed the same weight for the last 2 years. She's just sprouted up, but I don't know if it's helped out or whatever, which I let her have her kids' palate foods that she wants, once in a while, the pizzas and stuff, which lately I've been really feeling guilty about it. And I actually, the last weekend I had her, I'm like, I sat down with her and I'm like, you're not going to like this, but we're going to do things Dad's way for a while, and we're going to eat healthy. And if you don't like the taste, then I don't know what to tell you. Because she likes the salt and the oil, what kid doesn't? But I'm not worried about her weight now. I'm worried about her health, and she always tells me like, well, like mom feeds us, all the meat and the dairy and everything at home. So what am I supposed to do over there? I'm like, that's something you're going to have to talk to your mom about. But when you're here, you're going to, my ex-wife doesn't believe in this lifestyle. She thinks that meat's not bad for you and dairy's not bad for you. So, it's really hard to do that as a parent that only sees their kids 8 days a month. But I'm doing what I can now. I can't with a conscience feed her a bunch of junk anymore. It just after all this research and just how much better I feel. I mean, your podcast has actually helped out a lot. You were talking about the plaque in the artery starting up by age 10 or something like that.
They're seeing it very early. Yeah, it's like you said, you got away with it, sort of. We don't know what your arteries look like. Obviously, you're doing the right thing now, but yeah, we're seeing that early in kids, in their kids, and when they again select for a gut microbe that's based on, processed foods and oils, then they get that craving. That craving continues, and it, yourself, it can become a vicious cycle. So she's, moving now, and but it's just a matter of, I think. Addie talks about it. I think it's a great way. It's just to talk about nutrient density and not really restricting things, but, where do we find good things and celebrate the good fruits and vegetables and celebrate the good taste and celebrate how good you feel eating healthy and, how well people that eat healthy do athletically or dance-wise. And, even the dancing situation, a lot of those girls are, made to cut weight and fast, and they can have eating disorders as well, even though they're thin. But if she learns to eat, plant-based, then she's much less likely to have to worry about those issues, and still be healthy and eat good food. So what you're doing is fabulous. Just setting, you set the good example, and you do the best you can.
I actually did discover a perfect dessert for her that's plant-based, and she actually loves it. It's you take a whole grain tortilla, you just put a banana in there, and you sprinkle just a hair of brown sugar and some cinnamon on it, and wrap it up like a burrito. And she absolutely loves it, and it's better than ice cream to her. They call them banana burritos.
It's certainly better than what you can get, and you can make the pizza with her. With just hold the cheese and start to do the veggies, and let her help you out. And
I've actually in the last month or so, I've actually I think it was actually on one of your podcasts too that said that get them more involved with the cooking process, and they actually enjoy the food a lot more. But I think that's like with adults too. Like I was having a discussion with my friend earlier, and you're saying like there's no love with the food anymore because I've been on the hunt for actual good homemade tomatoes, and but you think about it's so easy to just go to the grocery store and just purchase what you want, and or just prepare it and there's just no love in the food, so I don't think it even tastes as good as like something that you didn't have your hands on. You know what I mean?
No, that's
I envy your garden like crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean there's nothing better, and it's more satisfying and fun to do than to bring in a couple pieces of oregano and bring in some basil and the tomatoes from the garden and put those in it. It makes all the difference in the world. You don't need all those spices. You don't need all the oils and the other stuff. It really makes it good. But it's a process, and it seems like you're coming along nicely. And I like if the take home message is keep it simple. And I saw on one of your posts is, you also can't out-exercise a bad diet. So, it's eating healthy first and then exercise. You're not gonna run those off or ride those off how some people do, and it can be very frustrating, and then they give up.
I always tell everybody that my personal experience is weight loss is about 90% diet and about 10% exercise. You got to stay moving, of course, which I am very thankful for my job for that. Is I am active a good 10 hours a night, and by the time I go to bed, like I'm tired. You know what I mean? I think there needs to be more jobs that people do like that, and less like jobs like at a desk or something. I can't imagine what my life would be right now if I sat at a cubicle all day and just typed up whatever, just sat at a desk all day. I cannot imagine. Like I'm constantly moving and there's chaos all around me, and we gotta be on our toes and work fast, but detail. We gotta get those quality doors out, and it can be stressful at times. But like for me, it feels like I'm like the hunter, especially while I'm fasting. Like I'm like the hunter out getting my food while I'm working, and then when I get home, then we can enjoy the spoils. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I actually had pellet doors when I lived in West Virginia and windows, and they're fabulous products. So nothing like them. Nothing can compare. So kudos and thank you for your expertise, because it's a great product.
Yeah, they treat me good. I treat them good,
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, listen, I really do appreciate you taking time to speak with me and, and share your journey, because, a lot of people out there struggle, and, the easy fix is to go get a gastric bypass or go get some sort of surgical procedure and hope that, it's a temporary fix. And most of those people gain their weight back because they go back to their old habits. And it's nice to hear from people that you're still working out some of the details, but it gets better every day. Every step of the way you're making more progress, and you're getting better. So good luck to you and best wishes, and thank you very much for sharing your story.
Well, thank you. And I might want to add too, I actually did have a gastric bypass consultation in 2011. Actually. Mm-hmm. I opted out for it, and thank God I did, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today as far as, with the plant-based lifestyle. I'm glad I didn't. If anybody out there is listening, and they're considering the gastric bypass, I sincerely hope that they would at least consider doing a plant-based, whole food lifestyle, trying that out before you go under the knife for that, because I'm so glad I didn't do that.
Perfect.
I know too many people, that's had problems. So that would be the one thing I would like for anybody to be taken away from that, is just give it a try. You'll feel better.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much for sharing, and I'll be following you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. I would like to thank Jeff again. For sharing his story. It's quite inspiring. It just shows you what can be done. Just to reiterate a few things, he went from 500 to 300, with a variety of diets. And the first 100 pounds he did on portion control, which was obviously very, very difficult for him. And, you can tell by his story, he had the episodes of yo-yoing when the portion control thing came in, when he tried to have some cheat days. And I think that goes back to, not only some food addiction, but I also think that, certainly everybody's addiction to sugar, salt, and oil, it leads to that. You have a little taste for one of those. Some of us have more of a sugar thing, or more of us have more of a salt thing, or more of an oil thing. But when you let those back into your diet, it just creeps back in so quickly. It's like letting your guard down. Once, I talk to patients about, who aren't really strict with avoiding eggs because they don't think they're that bad. And what they don't realize is not only is it an egg on your plate, but it's egg in a pastry. And, so when you really look at it, if you're not really vigilant about eggs, you could get 5 or 6 in processed foods a week if you're not careful. But if you say, okay, I'm not eating eggs, then you're vigilant about, you're aware and you're mindful about not eating eggs. And it's the same way with, when you're having a cheat day, then it starts to, well, anything goes, and they get worse and worse. And I think that's where those things come into play. The other thing I've talked about with my patients is that day, or when you say one day a week get say dairy into your diet, or you're not as vigilant, then you also are, you're dealing with not just yourself and your own cravings, but, your gut microbes and your immune system gets flared up. And, I like to think about it, the immune system is, once they release the troops in the immune system, and your macrophage and your white blood cells get all fired up, and all these different hormones and chemicals are released, it doesn't just go away in a day. It takes days for that to calm down again. So if you're constantly fighting your immune system, that's going to be hard to keep things in check as well. Jeff does essentially one meal a day during his work week. And, that works for some people, and some people it leads to continuous eating. I think what saves him is that he's exhausted by the end of this giant physical day, so he eats for a while, and then he goes to sleep, and it kind of sleeps it off. But I think sometimes people, especially if you're not strict with what's in your house and you're starving when you get home from a big work day, and you say, okay, now I can eat because I can't get into too much trouble because it's just going to be one meal, or it's just for these 3 hours, you can get into a tremendous amount of calories, especially if there's calorie-dense food around. He has it under control. As far as, the foods that he keeps around and that he can eat that's available. And they are very high fiber, and and obviously there's no sugar, oil, or salt. So it makes it more safe for him to control things. But I think, and I'm going to address this to guys, because I do think it tends to be more of a guy problem. More guys don't like to cook than it seems, that at least that I encounter. And they depend on their wives to have the meals ready, or to have something for them to eat. And perhaps they're not as quite as creative as when it comes to putting things together. And I really like what he said, that he has his beans, and he has his rice, and he has oats. And then he'll put vegetables in there. He puts the potatoes in the pot. And he has a system. And I think for guys, if you have a meal you like, and you can, just have that system, where it's potatoes and a vegetable, and you have the frozen vegetables and some fruit. You can keep it very simple. You don't have to be creative. Learn how to use that Instant Pot. Or again, he does everything in the microwave. 6 potatoes, a can of black beans. He did, a bag of frozen vegetables. He added some raw greens to the thing, and voila, he has it. And a couple pieces of fruit, if you have that around, you're good. So, especially, even if you're carrying your lunch to work, doing some potatoes and just, microwaving the night before the frozen vegetables, stick the potato on top of it. You have a lunch. And it doesn't have to be very complicated, but it can be calorie dense enough that it holds you through the day if you're taking your lunch. So don't be tempted to just do smoothies. I hear people that are doing smoothies, and these smoothies turn into milkshakes, and they're just very calorie dense milkshakes that really aren't serving people with the nutrients that are in them, and they tend to be really high calorie, and they don't ultimately hold you very well. The other thing that really upset me during the podcast when he talked about trying to go to the neighbor's house and people trying to tempt him, I just think that is just cruel. Someone that's really trying to lose weight and not be supportive of them. I really think, if I were around Jeff and his friends or people started to call him out like that, I'd actually have to say something. I just think that is being not very sensitive at all. If you know somebody that's trying to lose weight, support them. Again, it comes back to vegan bashing or plant-based bashing. People don't want people to change. They want to have a friend in their unhealthy state for the most part. And you just need to speak your voice. I'm doing this for my health. I don't care what you do. You get your choices, but I get mine. And please allow me to eat the way I want to and make my own choices. And I would appreciate if you're supportive of me. And I think that's a conversation that is very legitimate and people should have. And I would encourage you to have that with your friends. If they are truly your friends, they will support your way of eating. And if not, they'll move on. Well, this has turned into a somewhat of a long episode, but I think it was worth it. It was a nice interview. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at jami@drdulaney.com. It's JAMI at Dr. DOCTOR And please check out Jeffrey Koettel's Facebook page. It's The Incredible Shrinking Bearded Man. Leave him a note, leave him a message that you listen to the podcast. We'll post the podcast on his site as well. And, check out our website if you'd like some help with your nutrition plan or with your medical conditions, diabetes, lifestyle diseases. It's certainly, we're certainly would be happy to consult with you. We do, single consultations as well as the membership program, and you can see details of the membership program on the website. But you don't have to be in Florida. We're starting our new nutrition classes this week. If you are in Florida and you want to check out one of those, then give us a call. But we'd love to hear from you. The thing that makes us different from other nutritional programs is we're here. It's just not a short program and you're done. We're here to support you as long as it takes. And it again is it's a doctor-patient relationship of all aspects of your health and wellness that we want to deal with. So I think that makes us a little bit, it does make us different because we want to know about you and just not your calories. So check out the website, drdulaney.com. Email us. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and I'll see you next week.